Right, members, that is 4 o'clock. So item 1 is the notice and summons meeting, and I will hand over to Karen for that and the member attendance and apologies.
Thank you, Chair. To all members of the Environment and Regeneration Committee, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Strabane, Wednesday the 15th of January 2025. And I'll take the roll call. Alderman Derek Hussey.
Aye.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Alderman Julie Milton.
Here, Karen, online.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Paul Boggs.
Sure, Karen.
Councillor John Boyle.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Caitlin Deaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Duffy here. Councillor Sean Fleming.
And Sean.
Thank you. Councillor Emma McGinley.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Rory McHugh.
Sure.
Councillor Pat Murphy.
On shop.
Councillor Declan Norris. Councillor Martin Riley.
Here, Karen, online. Apologies
And
for Councillor Norris.
thank you. Okay, thank you. And Councillor Brian Tierney.
Here, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, members. Broadcasting statement item 3. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. Broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to be informed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the council privacy notice may be found on the council website www.derrystaban.com. Item 4, members, is declaration of members' interest. And Councillor Boggs.
Declaration under item number 18, please, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. If anyone else wishes to raise a declaration at this stage, or if they wish to raise it when we come to the item, in that case, members, we are content. Move on to item number 5, and we are to receive our deputation from Recycle Waste. Very welcome to Michael, and we will hand over to yourself now.
Okay. Well, number one, thanks for inviting me in here. It's good to get the opportunity to come in and have a chat and give a bit of background to what we're doing. Slide-wise, maybe you want to. We've been doing the Strabane dairy mixed dry recycling. Connor can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but 10 years now at this stage. And obviously there's been a bit of innovation, changes and tweaks have been going on over the last 10 years. So this presentation today, I'd like to keep it sort of high level. I'll try and keep it concise, give you an idea of what we're at, sort of a couple of innovations we're trying to do, and more than happy then to answer any questions you might have at the end of it. So there's been a question sort of floating around there for the last while. I know you guys it's coming past your desk now, but whether you stick with the tried and tested commingled or look at the curbside sort, which has been used in other parts of the north. So if you want the box to the bin, so next slide there, please. So there's a couple of main, things that they point out for commingled, and there's 4 or 5 there. And if I look at some of them, number one, it's easier for the householder. I think that's, it's if any of you have ever been in households around Belfast or some other areas where they're using this Kirby box, and you go back to home yourselves and see the system we're operating in this part of the world, it's much easier to keep material commingled. There's more room in the bins. With that there, it leads to increased recycling rates, which is what we're all really after as well. It's very, very important. And I know having siblings or living up in Belfast, quite often there's not enough physical room in the bin and they end up putting recycled material into the residual bin, which is not what I just want to see. The other one is, I'm sure you guys are finding around this part of the world, but labour is becoming harder and harder to get. And the sort of labour that we need and the sort of jobs we're doing, it's becoming less attractive. So we're spending quite a bit of money on technology and trying to reduce the labour we need to process each ton of material. And we're allowed to do that. We've been doing that over the the last 20 years since been doing this, the last 10 for you guys. But the hands-on, and many people it takes us to process a ton has been reducing over the years. With the curbside sort, that ain't possible. Okay, there's an awful lot of labour is actually needed. These various vans run around the countryside. Anecdotally, I'm hearing that there's issues with at certain times of the year in particular, but as time goes on, some of the councils that are using that scheme are finding it more and more difficult to actually get the material lifted. Okay. So on the technology side, you're very welcome. I'll go through this at the end. You're very welcome to come down and see the plant and see what we've been doing over the last number of years. But we're using everything. AI is a big buzzword you're all hearing these days. Well, we're using AI. We're using robots in our plant in Oma. We're using optical sorters. We're using near infrared vision and compressed air to sort out different types of plastic, make sure the quality of paper is good. There's magnets, eddy currents, there's all sorts of different technology in there. And 3 or 4 years' time, it'll be moved on again. So it's constantly evolving, and having it back in a plant where you can adapt the latest technology allows you to move with the times, and that's just not possible with the care box. Sorry, next slide, please. But at a high level, there's certain myths out there that the material that we produce from our commingled bins, is poor quality and maybe not fit for reprocessing. And we've been doing commingled material for the last 20 years. We've never had any issue sorting material or moving it on to end markets. In fact, a lot of our end markets are the exact same that the box material is going to. So there's no issues. We're selling it across Europe, Ireland, depends, come down to Far East as well at times. But at the moment, quite a bit of our material is staying in GB in Ireland. Then there's a particular emphasis been put on glass, and people saying that the glass that comes out of the blue bin from commingled collection isn't fit for reprocessing, or they can't get it back to remelt. That's just wrong. The last number of years, we've been sending boatloads, actually out through Derry Port, in fact, the last number of years, and we're sending material, and it's sought after, and people coming to the yard every year, different people coming looking at it. But at the moment, we've got good relationships with 2 processors, reprocessors, one in Portugal, one in Belgium. They're very happy to get the material, and they take it back in, they put it through a process, and there's over 90% of that glass that goes back to remelt, goes back into glass bottles. So this belief, and I know there's been people talking about it at local companies that they need to have, bottle banks or hand sorted glass to go back to remelt, to go back into their bottles. It's just wrong. Their competition around Europe isn't doing that. It's happy to source material from either bottle banks or from commingled and put it back to remelt. And then there's also this talk that if we go to the curbside sort, that it'll encourage more reprocessing of material in the island of Ireland. It's really the glass they're talking about, and it's wrong. The material, and I'll go on to it in the next slide, the material that we're producing at the minute is more than fit. If the market dynamics on the island of Ireland, the tonnage is there, there's no issues why people can't start reprocessing it and taking this here on down and providing closed loop solutions. Okay, so the next slide, and really where I'm getting at here is we're doing it ourselves. So our recycling business is Recycle, and we're also involved in the dairy business. We're Strathroy Dairy, so we're supplying milk across the 32 counties. So we're bringing milk in from all of the north, Donegal. I'd say quite a bit of milk from Wexford as well, and various counties the whole way back up through. And we take it up in Oma, we process it, put it back into jars and sell it across the 32 counties. So it's going to every corner. We're also dry milk, powder milk, and that's going around the world. So there was a push on now because we're buying in. So just to complete that slide, you'll see there that so we've Recycle, you've Strathroy, and Strathroy have been buying in quite a bit of virgin plastic because we buy in virgin plastic, blow our own 2 and 3 litre plastic jars, and fill them and send them on. So there's a pressure coming on from the supermarkets and ourselves. We want to start using recycled content, but content wasn't available. There is some on GB, but where we are in the north here, obviously we have to apply to EU legislation applies to us, and the EU hasn't signed off on that type of plastic to go back into food contact as yet. So we're developing a plant that allows us to do that. So the dairy at the minute uses about 4,000 tons of virgin plastic, and our plan is sometime later on this year when we get approval is to start substituting for about 50% recycled content. Okay, so take about 2,000 tons of that back into the loop, And then the plan is to aim for further on down the line, a couple of years' time, to go for 100% recycled. So we've set up a new business, Polymer Matters, based on our site up in outside Omagh. You know, we've spent over 15 million has been invested in the last 18 months, 2 years. So we put up a purpose-built shed. All the technology, all the equipment's there. We're recycling plastic, not for food contact at the minute, but as soon as we get approval from Europe, you know, we're learning, the expertise has been built up there at the minute, and we will start using it, and hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months. So next slide, the closed loop that we're talking about. There's quite a bit of detail in that slide, but at a high level, what we're really after is we want to get every used milk jar on the island of Ireland in some way to GB. So with strong contacts with quite a few MRFs, like we'll probably need, at full production, we should be able to produce about 10,000 tons of recycled HDPE. Now, tell you about HDPE is high density polyethylene, and it's, if you look at it, to give you a bit of an idea, the reason in these parts of the world we drink quite a bit of milk. So Ireland, England, the States, and Australia, we like a lot of liquid milk. Okay, so we like a bigger container. If you go to the States, you'll see them in their gallon jars and their quarts and all the rest. And we like our 2 and 3 litre, whatever it might be, or 5 pint. So we want a handle on that jar because people want to use it like a jug. Okay, so to allow us to develop that, and those are markets I'm talking about, you use high density polyethylene because it allows you to put a handle. Okay, now if you go to other parts of the continent like France, Germany, whatever other parts of the world, liquid milk isn't as much sought after. It's not as big a part of their diet. They eat more cheeses or yogurts or whatever it might be. They mightn't take as much dairy as we do. But if they do take liquid milk, quite often it's in a 1 litre bottle. There's no handle. It's a PET bottle. It's a bit like a water bottle. If you go to Lidl and Aldi, you get the orange juice. It's in a tall, slimmer bottle. So the European Union, PET is a different grade of plastic, and at a very, I'm not going down a rabbit hole here, but at a very basic level, it's a better barrier. You rub your hand up the side of a plastic water bottle, it's nice and smooth. Okay, so very little, at molecular level, nothing's going to permeate that plastic. So Europe have signed off, and you'll go around anywhere in Europe and you can get a recycled water bottle or a Coke bottle because it's all PET. But HDPE is different. If you rub your hand up the side of a milk bottle, milk jar, it's typed slightly grainy. Okay, so at a molecular level, you can get little bits of taste and smell can actually get into the plastic. It ain't going to run milk out onto it. It's not a leak, but it means that to get that clean again, you have to go through a bigger process. And Europe, being Europe, are particularly slow with doing things. So the states, the FDA have signed off on it, so we can do what we're doing at the minute, and the equipment we have, I could provide, and we're having discussions, provide recycled content for milk jars in the States. No problem, they can use 100%. GB signed off on it a while ago as well. That was back when they're still in Europe. And at the moment, no new entrants allowed to sell any material into GB or into Europe until they get European approval. Okay? So kind of mad, you think all this Brexit and all these here burning legislation and ripping up books and all the rest. Bottom line is, if I had a plant built in Main Street, Birmingham, doesn't matter if we're here in the north, I couldn't sell a stick of material in GB until I get EU approval. So be it. So at the minute, our hands are slightly tied waiting for this EU approval. But what we want to do here is, and I sort of talked about this here before, as soon as we do, we'll be our own first customer, and after that, there will be supplying it to other dairies, other packaging companies across Europe. That's the target market. But our target for our feedstock, as I was explaining to you, really is going to be GB in Ireland, because we cannot get that feedstock from the rest of Europe. Because it's, when I say our feedstock is HDPE natural, which means there's no pigment in it. HDPE is used for shampoo bottles and all other things, but there's a colorant in it. You can never get that color back out again. So that material might be able to be made into a plastic bucket or into a drainage pipe. But because our stuff is natural, we can actually do a proper closed loop. So it goes milk jar, householder, MRF, back to us, back to the dairy, and you actually have a proper closed loop. There's no other plant in the island of Ireland doing that at the minute. There's all sorts of plants doing, on the plastic side, there's no other plant that's doing, anyone else doing plastic is making a different product. And it's really a one-trip product. You know, they're taking whatever bottles, whatever post-industrial plastic they have, make it into a bucket, make it into a drainage pipe, park bench, whatever it might be. But that's it. Okay. So the process itself, I sort of talked a wee bit about it there, but really because of the material being, as I mentioned, able to pick up taints and tastes on a molecular level, we have to make sure that our feedstock is over 99% milk bottles. So it's first stage in our plant. We go through a pile of optical sorts and using AI technology there as well to make sure that it's only milk jars that get through our first stage. Okay, so we have 99% plus milk jars coming through. The feedstock is bales of plastic bottles coming mostly from Merce in Ireland, but across GB. Then we go into a washing and flaking stage where we take the material down from bottle size, about 5 mil size, sorry, sub 15 mil size, put it through a series of friction washers, spin dryers. Also, so you can imagine when you've got dairy and milk and whatever else is inside the jar, you have to use some heat and some detergent to actually get those fats off the material. So you have to put it through a hot wash process at over 80 degrees as well. Anyway, it's an extensive process. Left a super clean flake at the back end, and then we put it through an extruder where you heat the flake up again by pressure to over 240 degrees centigrade, squeeze it out through a die head and various laser filters, and you're left with a pellet, which is identical to the pellets we would buy in virgin coming from the polymer plants across Europe. And then we take that pellet, pack it up, and ideally use it ourselves initially, and then send it on to the marketplace around the rest of Europe. Okay, so an upshot of this is, it's the last slide, right? I sort of probably, yeah, next one. Yeah, so we are at the minute, we're going through this process with Brussels. We're the only one doing it at the minute. There's a couple other plants that are in the process of getting built, which probably piggyback off what we're doing. No other plant will be doing this in Ireland. When we do get it, we'll be the first plant accredited across the globe to be able to sell this type of material into the European market. As I said, it's the first proper closed loop recycling plant in Ireland for plastics. There's a bit of going on in glass, but there won't be too many others in Ireland because we don't actually have the tonnage. You know, people talk about paper plants and other plants, cardboard plants. We don't have that tonnage on the island. It doesn't make sense. It don't have the economies of scale. You'll end up piggybacking off somebody else in Europe or somebody in GB. And then the kicker for us, why do we do it? Well, you know, the group of companies we have, we needed, so the dairy needed to be getting recycled content. They couldn't get it anywhere else. There's one other company in England which is producing at the minute, but they're tied up in long-term contracts with some of the bigger dairies over in that part. So we have to do it ourselves. But as well as that, it'll give us a competitive advantage because we'll be the only dairy on the island actually be able to supply to their customers or any of the supermarkets actual recycled content, and this is important for them. You know all the buzzwords, the ESGs and sustainability and all the rest. But it ticks all those boxes. Carbon footprints, everything's there. And for us, the key is that it's allowing us to, keeps us competitive, allows us to retain jobs we have, and ideally grow the 3 businesses. So, as things stand, we're only 20 miles down the road from you. Doors open. You're all very welcome. All this is happening. So, if you want to see a milk jar coming out of a bin lorry, been processed, been taken in, washed and flaked, pellet been made, go down to the dairy. At the minute, we can't use recycle, but soon we shall. But we'll be able to see jars getting blown down there, filled with milk, and you'll see them in your own fridge, ideally shortly after. So, it's all happening, guys. And this is happening from a commingled collection. Okay? So, some of these guys that are out there saying that we need this curbside sort to allow us to get the proper quality material, it's nonsense. Now, would I prefer it if somebody handed me a bag of nice clean jars so I didn't have to spend, if all I had to do was, extrude this and go back to food contact? Absolutely. But some of the guys in the glass sector are looking for, they want you to basically hand them a rinsed bottle and say, there you go, guys, reblow that. It's like me going out to you and every householder hand me a nice clean jar. That's not reality. It's not going to happen. It's not needed. We've just like the guys in Belgium, Portugal, and several other places up in the continent, up in Scandinavia, they've got front-end processing plants which allow them get glass like we're producing at the minute because they want to come down and buy it. They want it, and they're quite happy to go back to remelt. Okay, so and at a high level here, whatever about the box and whatever about the commingled, and the argument about taking glass out of the commingled bin at the minute. 15 years ago, whenever as you put in, I was skeptical, I'll be totally honest with you, because it was a pain in the ass to start running stuff. It wears plants out and it's sore and abrasive, but as time goes on, you get on with it, you tweak your plant, you use innovation, you tidy it up, and now it's a valuable commodity, and it can be taken to whatever stage people want it. But so things stand, guys. Happy with the way the system is, and again, come down, very welcome down, kick the tires, see what's going on, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Michael. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And say that the amount of dairies that were particularly well and Castle Regeneration stage, there was a lot of farmers that had the dairies and the milk production there. And as you say, we would consume a lot more of that. So it's very, very interesting to see that. And as I say, within West Tyrone, we'll claim that then with might be a different council area, but still in West Tyrone. So no, very, very much appreciated. Anyone wish to raise or have any questions for Michael at this stage? Alderman Hussey first, and then we'll go to Councillor Murphy if you're happy enough.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Michael, for the presentation. You've concentrated on two of the products out of commingled, namely glass and plastic. So I suppose my first question would be with regard to the other products that will be commingled in our blue bins. Should they be metals, paper, cardboard, whatever? Could you give us a wee bit of a lowdown on that part of it? With regard to glass itself coming out of our bins, I've heard this one before about the commingled glass coming out because it's contaminated, etc. And we actually had a presentation in council from the Fermanagh firm who do that sort of stuff. Couldn't quite understand it myself because I'm also a publican and deal with quite a bit of glass, and can't understand why the glass could not be used. But I think you've gone through that there. And what you're saying is basically it's lack of investment on their part. So that's that one. And again, you've mentioned the critical mass that's necessary for the plant to operate. We're talking here in terms of dairy city in Strabane, Fermanagh. Do you do cross-border? And how far, what is your area of common bond, shall we call it, or stuff coming into the site? And you've mentioned there perhaps a visit to the plant, and I'm saying to you through our chair, that is something, or to the chair, really, that is something that I would personally be interested in. I don't know if other committee members would be. I certainly found the visit to Fermanagh that I undertook privately interesting, and I would certainly welcome that visit. I presume you're out Mountjoy East and the old homestead down there.
No, it is. We're not. We sort of keep the dairy separate.
All right.
We're out Mountfield direction, so out the far side of the town. But the crow flies 4 or 5 miles.
No, it's just used to cut out that road. Sort of remember.
That's a whole different direction here.
Quite well from many as a year ago. The dairy end of it. Those couple of questions, but certainly most interesting presentation, and something I believe that we can build on in council here. Thanks, Michael.
Okay. Right, there's a couple of questions there, Eric. So the other material, so yeah, you're right, it focused probably on the glass and the plastics, and it focused mostly on the plastics, it focused mostly on the HDP. So the other types of plastic, yeah, at the moment, we produce a bale of commingled plastic, we call it. And I would send that on to other processors on the island. Actually, some of it goes as far as Limerick, and some of it goes as far as Monaghan. And what happens there is those guys separate it out by polymer type and color. So it's PET or polypropylene, different types of plastic, different types of colors. And what I do then is I buy the HD natural back off them. So I buy my own back if you want, but for tonnage reasons, the reason I sub that out to them is apart from getting my own back, I'm able to get back from other MRFs across the island. Okay, so to maybe touch on all of your questions, the catchment area for the new plant is the whole island and GB as well. So we'll be pulling in raw material for the new HDPE food grade plant from the island and some GB as well. But the other materials, the paper, the cardboard, the aluminium, the steel, they're all separated. The quality of them is all as good as any other plant in Ireland. I don't care if it's what type of collection they're using. With no problems moving the material. It's open to global commodity markets, anything else. Steel's up 1 minute and aluminium, and ebb and flow, and that we see it. You just roll with the punches, but we've no issues. The quality is good, and the material keeps moving. You're right. Critical mass. There's room probably for a PET plant for plastic on the island. We're doing HDPE, paper and cardboard. I don't see it. The volume's not there. Glass, yeah, there would be. Especially the glass plants are already working, so there's no reason if they want to get more feedstock. And I know they're importing quite a bit of material. I ain't making this up. The plants across Europe are taking our material in and going back to remelt. So it's been done. But I think that's most of your question. Cashmere, that other material, glass, yeah, it's but yeah, I suppose that the key point, the island will be sufficient for certain closed loop processes, but after that, no different. I know there's a bit of a talk on the minister's been off on a bit of a tangent here, but there's incinerators and all the rest and landfills, and quite a bit of material RDF has been exported at the minute. And I can understand why that happens. Like there's some materials going to Quinn or Manuke, whatever they call it now, the cement plant. There's others going to various parts of the island for displacing pet coke, whatever it might be in the cement plants. Other parts RDF has been shipped off to power plants and other district heating plants across the continent. Maybe some of those get built in Ireland to do, that's fine. But at the moment, if it makes sense to keep exporting it, the market will find its own level. We're competitive locally to do these things, we'll bring it on shore. If not, go to the best option.
Thanks to Michael through you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I have another 4 speakers, Councillor Murphy, Alderman Middleton, Councillor Riley and Councillor Boggs. So Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Michael, thank you for your presentation. When do you envisage European accreditation?
If I told you before Christmas, I would have said 6 months. And then a conversation I had today, I'm saying more like 9. It's a long piece of string. It's unbelievable how frustrating it is to deal with these guys. And it's they want so many. If they want different tests done on the plastic, which we've done in various labs in Europe that you have to go to do this, and they come back and they want another set of tests done. But the test might take 3 weeks, 2 weeks, but it could take you 2 months by the time somebody does them in the lab, somebody writes up the report. It's highly frustrating. But believe you me, we're pushing as hard as we can. So sometime 2025, earlier the better. And believe you me, we're pushing like hell to get it. So sometime this year.
Thank you. Last year, I think we had a presentation from box collection group who were advocating for box collection. So my next question would be to possibly Connor. What is the best system in your opinion to benefit ratepayers in Derry and Strabane?
I think, Chair, different people will have different views on that. The commingled system is probably more cost effective. There's a lot more labour required for a curbside sort. But as Michael has said, you will get reprocessors who will say that the quality of material is better. And I think there's a balance to be done for councils in terms of that equation. But again, as technology has improved, and I think maybe that's where a visit to a number of plants, not just one plant, would be maybe in members' interest to look at the different technologies and the different qualities and form your own opinion on that. There are those who advocate strongly for curbside sort, others who advocate strongly for commingled. I think what will probably and what will drive council's direction on this is the direction of travel that the department go forward with in terms of their rethinking resources. So they have a number of options under consideration. One is glass out, and the other is what they call fibre out. So it would be commingled as is, except glass would be in a separate container, collected separately, or commingled as is with paper and card out, collected separately. We await the outcome of that consultation exercise to see where that goes. I would advise I suppose members there is also a consultation across the water that DEFRA carried out into different forms of collection, and some of the considerations that they took in their convenience and number of containers for households, they have called it simplified collections. That report is out at the moment, and that again contains I suppose different viewpoints and information on what councils need to consider. So it's one of those ones. I think it will be for individual councils to consider what is best for them. There will be cost benefits in one system over another, and there may well be benefits in terms of the material in terms of one system over another. And all we will do is put the information in front of members at a point in time, and take forward your recommendations in terms of that.
Members, we can share some of those links if members would be useful for them to read. And as Connor said, we await and engage with the department in terms of their policy direction, which will in effect not only steer council's sort of direction travel, but also we would hope that should there be changes in policy, they may well hopefully support us financially to implement changes as well. So obviously all of those policy considerations we've brought to you over the years, but we continue to engage centrally and obviously with our council colleagues across Northern Ireland as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Noted here, just noted declaration of interest from Councillor McGinley as a member of the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group, and I'll declare myself as regards that as well. And Alderman Middleton next.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you also to Michael for your informative and engaging presentation. Michael, you'll be glad to know that my question has already been asked and you give a very thorough answer, so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing the myth busting element of your presentation. That was hugely helpful, and it's something that I'm really interested in, this particular topic. So I was glad to read that previously before the meeting and also to hear you talk it through. I look forward to seeing future innovations, and I would very much welcome a visit to the plant. So thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Councillor Riley Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks to Michael for the presentation. Again, just like Julie, my question I was going to ask has been asked and answered. My question was, I suppose, more for officers in relation to what we're doing. I suppose, Chair, it is at this time of year in January when most of the households are dealing with a lot more of the blue bin waste. I'm not talking about glass bottles, mind you, but the wrapping paper and the cardboard boxes and so on that people arrive into their homes over Christmas. It's been very useful that the council's marketing team putting messages up on the social media, encouraging people to know what goes into which bin and encouraging them to recycle appropriately. So the questions I had were around that commingling of the waste, which is best, which is the right way to progress things. I appreciate Michael's offer to go and visit the site. Myself, along with some other SDLP councillors at the time, did that in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. It's quite some time ago, but I think a fresh visit for the entire committee would be certainly beneficial for people to see what happens with the waste when it is collected, and to encourage again members to inform ourselves about the processing, but also to help alert our ratepayers about what happens to the waste when it is collected. So, Chair, happy with the suggestion that we should go and visit the site, and to thank Michael for coming in and presenting. And yeah, there's plenty of things to think about in relation to how we go forward this in the future. Included with that, Chair, I know council is part of APSI, and APSI would have good connections with other councils in facing the same issues in other jurisdictions as well. So when officers are bringing back future papers on this, I think it would be worthwhile, sense checking some of the things that we're doing with other councils in other jurisdictions as well. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Declaration of interest as well from Councillor Tierney in regards to the Northwest Regional Waste Management Group. And the last speaker I have was Councillor Boggs.
Chair, and thank you very much, Michael, for the presentation and for your answers so far. I suppose just while we're looking, and you've detailed, the process that you're doing at the moment and the tonnage that is out there and all the rest, I suppose a lot of our focus is on how we as a council manage the waste that we have as best we can in order to help the environment going forward, particularly in relation to the Climate Change Act and everything else that goes along with it. So I suppose one of the things is that we are becoming more and more aware of plastics and our need to reduce plastics going forward. And you'll see supermarkets obviously changing from plastics to cardboard, and some products it's a good thing, and other products it doesn't last until you get out of the supermarket. But as supermarkets and suppliers start to reduce the amount of plastic that they're using, obviously that has an impact on the overall tonnage and that maybe we use as an island, but in this instance as a council area. What's your assessment, either both on your process, if the tonnage is reduced on the island, and then also whether or not that mix, and I'm not advocating for, but the box system better, because if we were reducing our plastics, then we're reducing the amount that we need to put into a box on the side of a curb in an ideal world. So as we begin to reduce our waste, are we in a better position then to move towards a box system rather than your bigger bins? Just a bit of information around what you think about reduction of waste versus how we move forward.
All right, there we go. It'll take a while to get this one, but to answer your question, right, so first of all, there's been a push on the supermarkets are pushing all their suppliers to reduce the amount of plastic. So at the dairy, for example, we managed to take about 15%, nearly 20% of the weight of the plastic out of the jar. Okay, so raising the jar was coming in somewhere over 40 grams, and we got it down to about 33. Okay, so we're doing that. So suppliers are doing that in their own initiative. There's certain types of plastics which plastic's got a bit of a taboo going on, it's a bit of bad press, and I think some of it is justified, but some of it's misplaced. So where you're able to, the bottles I'm talking about, the water bottles, the milk bottles, whatever else out there, they can be handled, they can be mechanically recycled. Okay, they can be put around a closed loop like we're talking about, so they're fine. I don't see any issues with them long term. There's an awful lot of plastic packaging. You buy your punnet of whatever it might be, apples, and you have a cardboard and you have a plastic sleeve over the top. There's an awful lot of plastic sleeves going on out there. There's an awful lot of plastic that is multi-layer, okay, which means it might be a type of plastic, might be a foil, it could be a barrier layer, and it's a disaster. You cannot recycle. They'll tell you all sorts of nonsense out there. Unless it's a single type of plastic, it ain't getting recycled. Right? It can't be mechanically recycled if it's 2 or 3 bits of plastic stuck together. Okay, now there's this holy grail out there where they're going to try and get all those air types of plastic film and take it back to chemical recycling. Okay, and there's all sorts of plants out there, and they've been there for the last 10 or 15 years, which they're going to take it back to diesel and take it back to wax and take it back to this, and they don't work. Okay, there's none of them working as yet. They'll go out and get a milk jar, something that's mechanically processed. They can put it through the chemical process and break it down. But those multi-layers on this, they can do nothing with them at the minute. Okay, so they, in theory, will have to be. But the best thing to do with them at the minute, you mightn't like to hear it, is incinerate them. We burn them, get energy. Instead of burning bucking oil somewhere else, we'll burn that plastic and release energy rather than sticking it in a hole in the ground. It makes no sense. So I might be often slightly one here, but getting back to your point, I think that the pressure's coming on this extended producer responsibility. The supermarkets are looking at their suppliers saying, right, what the hell are you putting in the packaging? Can I actually recycle this? You know all these here myths that Tesco did these, plastic and the batteries this, and quite often they followed them back, they're getting stuck in a hole in the ground somewhere in Europe or whatever. Okay, so really the pressure's on now that if you're going to supply me some sort of packaging, can this actually be recycled? That's one of the reasons we're doing this project we're at the minute. But I think the plastics and other types of material that are being used and that are difficult to recycle, the pressure from the supermarkets will police that. The pressure on the supermarkets coming from us, the consumer, pressurizing the supermarkets, and they're pressurizing their suppliers. So that will ease itself out. Back to your question then, eventually that will lead to less packaging, less in the bins. Yeah, but honest, I'm not overly worried about plastic. Plastic bottle, I think, is a place in the marketplace. Okay, rather than people say, well, advocating, glass or whatever it might be. You go off on a tangent, but the amount of energy involved in producing glass, and I think it'd be crazy. It's great for some products, but not for all. The cartons, people are saying, well, let's go for a carton. And I'm funny, you may have visited hotels and places, and there's a carton of water sitting in the room, and they say, I don't know if you've seen it or not, and saying, listen, here it is, this environmental package, and they give you a carton of water, a wee dinky thing, and say this is a fully recycled package. It's the biggest baloney, because you've got a plastic top, plastic neck on it. You've got a cardboard, piece of cardboard body. It's got a foil line. It's fit for nothing rather than burning. Okay, and people are out there, pushing this thing out. So way off on one here slightly, but packaging will probably reduce. Biggest thing for volume in bins isn't going to be plastics. The bottle will stay there, and that takes the biggest volume. The plastic film takes up very little space. Okay, it's not going to really impact the bin when that gets weeded out, which I hope it will. Paper is a bigger one because You know, I might buy a newspaper. There's an awful lot of, you know, phones, whatever else. The younger ones ain't buying newspapers anymore. There's an awful lot less paper out there. So the paper is dropping. And I was thinking this is going to change things dramatically, but our shopping habits have changed now. So while our paper content has gone down, the cardboard content has gone up, because you're all guilty of it. You've seen the vans arriving to your house and boxes getting fired out at the doorstep. You know, we're all shopping online, so the Amazon effect is happening. There's more and more cardboard. Cardboard's bulky. Kirby boxes, if you look at them, the biggest complaint people have about them, you get one half decent cardboard box. That's the box is filled. That's it, done. So I see that waste streams changing and some of the difficult to recycling ones being pushed to one side, but I think you're still going to need volume. Unless somebody comes up with a better solution than the cardboard box, which is environment friendly, and if it lands on a haze, it will, you know, decompose and it can be recycled. So hopefully I'm answering your question. I don't see tonnage might go down, volume will still stay where it is. Stick with the bin.
Very good. Can bring in Connor here.
Yeah, Chair, Michael referred to what's called PEPR, which is Packaging Enhanced Producer Responsibility. So the government has recently introduced this scheme where the producers of packaging have a levy applied to each piece of packaging that they produce. And that in turn is then passed down to councils and to reprocessors to cover the cost of dealing with that packaging. Now, one of the main driver behind the scheme is to encourage those who generate and create packaging to look at what they're creating so that they get rid of all the difficult to recycle materials. So as Michael talked about, whether you use different types of plastics in a single item, that they would reduce that so you end up with a piece of plastic or a piece of cardboard that can be recycled, that doesn't lend itself or doesn't need further treatment. So that scheme has been introduced as of this year. It's now in play. And the expectation is over the next number of years, you will see two things happening. One is the types of packaging, and to say those difficult to recycle packaging streams being eliminated or certainly reduced where they can be. And then within that, the volumes of packaging being reduced as well. Simply put, the manufacturers won't want to pay, to have their materials recycled. So they will take these steps both to reduce the complexity of the material, to make it simpler to recycle and to reduce the volume of it. So yeah, there will be that impact on packaging going forward. But I said shopping habits have changed, and yeah, the internet and online shopping has had a significant impact on it. And again, I mean, I've had emails from Amazon in the last couple of days where they are researching, and seeking information on the type of packaging and customers' views on that. But we all see you get a box inside a box inside a box. So those are the issues around that need to be further addressed. But all of that is aimed at driving down the amount of waste that's produced in the first place, meaning that we don't have as much to deal with. But secondly, and just as importantly, where waste is produced and we are done with it, that it can be recycled and it forms part of that closed loop recycling for all of those materials. So for the difficult, hard to recycle items, they should be eliminated over time. And what we're left with are packaging wastes, and whether that's plastic, paper, cardboard, whatever else, that can be recycled and can be recycled in a closed loop system. So that's where we're going with that. And I think that's the difference that we'll see as we move forward.
Thank you very much. Michael, just one wee question there. In regards to, well, I know there's going to still be a cost in regards to seeking to get this EU approval, because you have to get the test done in that regard, but hoping that's a nominal kind of figure rather than substantial investment to get the testings and get this approval. You're content enough that your product, the like of these milk cartons, you'll be competitive enough compared to the price ones will be paying now that you would have the market. I know you have the internal market there in regards to Strathroy dairies themselves, but you're content enough that you'll be able to sell this in such bulk that other dairies, there'll be considerable saving for other dairies, that you would have the customer base there within here.
Yeah, that's the question. There's the moment, well, anyway, make a long story short, there's a plastic tax that's coming in. So the companies that don't have recycled content in their containers will have to pay the plastic tax. That tax is going up and up. So if there's an additional cost regards processing, putting that recycled material on the market, it'll be met by this. So it will not be a detriment. And in fact, so hopefully from a cost point of view, the recycled material is equivalent, maybe even slightly less than the virgin. And then there's obviously the brownie points, if you want, that the customers, householder and the retailers want recycled content. They need it for what Connor's saying. They have the responsibility to get recycled material out there and show that they're advocating packaging that can be put into a closed loop and can round and round. So listen, like anything business venture, there's always a risk. And fortunately, this EU thing is far from straightforward, and it is, significant. But listen, it's a medium long-term play, and we just have to get on with it.
Thank you very much. And regards to members, I am minded, given the comments there, that Alderman Hussey was proposing of his content, and Councillor Riley from his comments as well, and Demon was seconding, that we would seek to get a site visit arranged for you whenever it's convenient for yourself, if you're content. We'll organise that, I suppose, with the officers and yourself, if you're content enough of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, very welcome, and whenever it suits us all, yeah, the sooner the better.
No, well, thank you very much again for coming today, and thank you very much for your presentation and for answering the questions. Very, very much appreciate it, and we do look forward to a visit in the future. And you're free to go. The rest of these people are going to have to sit tight for a wee bit longer. Thank you very much. Members, the next item I have is Chairperson's business. And there are 2 wee items here, and the first one will be Alderman Middleton. Julie.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. Just on behalf of the DEP, I just want to speak very briefly and would very much like to thank all of the recycling team at every level within Council. I would like to offer particular thanks, and I believe it is very much owed to our recycling crews who have went above and beyond during the extremely hazardous cold spell. Thank you from the Faughan residents and our many untreated rural roads and estates that you serviced despite the treacherous conditions. We know that you're still out collecting bins back and forward on the roads, waving to the kids. When the roads were slippy and icy, you were out running about, grabbing the bins where some of us couldn't even walk because we were that scared. So we very, very much appreciate all the hard work and additional hours you put in very hazardous conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Middleton, and I'm sure all the rest of the members concur as well. Conditions were very difficult, and when they're in those lorries the size of that machine, and if it starts to go, you're not going to stop it very handy. So it is very much appreciated for the staff for all the work put in. Everyone's content. Just the other wee thing which I will raise, members, in regards to Sion Mills and the play park there and off the parkside there off the Sean Road, and do thank Colin and Connor for the team and for Desi as well there for the work that was done. There was a bit of vandalism there and a few incidents there yesterday, and the swift action that was taken by council staff was very, very much appreciated, very, very much appreciated by the residents there. And just a wee quick question, there was in that email in regards to a wee play item which has been removed because it's been vandalised now a few times. Is there any, even if it can just be looked at, would there be something maybe could replace that little item? I know it was the wee flower head things there, but if it could be considered at some stage, Colin, that would be just appreciated, because there was a play value in it. I know it's gone now, but it's just to see what could be done. But it is very, very much appreciated for the quick action that officers took. Thank you. Members, next item then is the minutes of the last meeting. Does anyone wish to raise anything, members, of the minutes of the meeting on the Wednesday, 4th of December?
Chair, can I come in?
Yes, Councillor Riley, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It starts on page 16 of the pack and goes to page 18. It's ER 295/24. I suppose there's two things, Chair. First of all, in relation to the particular item, the last paragraph touches on the fact that the Director of Environment and Generation expressed disappointment about the fact that there was no report from DFI regarding flooding on the agenda, and in this month we have the same situation, which I know is creating concern not just for myself in the water side, but also Councillor Norris, who can't be with us this afternoon, in the Faughan area as well. So it's just to flag that again with officers and to see if it is possible to get an update from DFI on the various different flooding mitigation measures I think it would be useful to get that at the start of this year. And we know from previous occasions that the timescales that DFI have been indicating are quite some time away for residents that are really worried about inclement weather and the flooding that can arise. So an update from DFI would be appreciated, especially given, as I said, that this is the first committee meeting of this year. Attached with that, Chair, I suppose there is the new consultation that is out. It was, I think it's been referenced on social media as well about living well with water for the Derry area. I'm just wondering if officers have seen that consultation and if plans are in place to respond to it on behalf of council. Chair, I think that would be useful. Chair, with your indulgence, just to attach on something to lighting in parks, which was the item on which I've come in on. I know officers also have been dealing with the lighting of the Peace Bridge and Mute Meadow. And while it's not necessarily directly a council function in terms of the lighting of those pieces of art and infrastructure around our city centre, this committee in the past has been the venue for updates on the lighting of the Peace Bridge and Mute Meadow. So would it be possible for officers to bring back a report on that lighting of those key pieces of public art, given the fact that there's work underway outside the Guildhall for the Factory Girl sculpture? We want to make sure that all the public art in and around the Peace Bridge, including the Peace Bridge itself, are properly illuminated, especially at this time of year, Chair, when we have lots of visitors in the city, and the darker evenings is so important to make sure that those structures are well illuminated. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Karen.
Yep, through you, Chair. Members, again, apologies in terms of the flooding update. I think we've had a little bit of a communication breakdown because we've had a member of staff who's been off for a little while, and trying to engage with DFI has been proven a little bit difficult. However, that hopefully will resolve in the next week or so. So we will endeavour to bring the flooding update back as soon as possible, and we'll endeavour to have that back for the next committee. In terms of the Living with Water consultation, yes, officers have been engaged with the Living with Water team and indeed Northern Ireland Water, you know, right from myself down to the wider team for the last few years in terms of development of the strategy and indeed potential projects that we could work together on. Obviously, members are aware the Minister has now released the consultation, so we will bring that back to members next month for your information and for any comments you may have. And we will also have already arranged a meeting to include the Chief Executive and a number of senior officers in terms of feeding into the consultation response, which we will again draft on a corporate perspective and bring that to members before the end of the consultation period. So we're very much over that one as well, and see that as a potential huge opportunity to work with DFI and with Northern Ireland Water, not only to move towards I suppose more sustainable drainage solutions throughout the city and district, both using our particular assets, new developments, some of our city dale projects, etc., but also in identifying potential constraints around the waste and drainage infrastructure within the city and district, and putting engaging with the department and NI Water to address those as well in the short, medium and longer term. So we are working on that, and we will bring further reports to members as soon as we can. In terms of lighting of the Peace Bridge, certainly there are some aspects of that which council are responsible for, some of the functional lights, and then there's some more decorative lights. So we have been for some time trying to find funding solutions for replacing lights and upgrading lights. We have gone through procurement exercises in relation to that, etc., and we will bring a report in next month. We're hoping to be able to find a short and a medium term solution in terms of that, and we'll bring that to members' attention again at the February committee. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Middleton on this point.
Thanks, Chair. Also would like to come in on the flooding point raised by Councillor Riley. Thank you, Councillor Riley, for bringing that up. I welcome your comments and I also concur with your comments. Karen, thank you very much for the update. I was wondering myself why it wasn't there, but that's understandable. I just wonder if things aren't resolved in the next few weeks, can the flooding element be brought back into the agenda, even if we don't have a DFI report? I think we should be talking about this every single time. I have said that before, and I'm not sure if this is relevant or not, but just on the basis that drainage was mentioned quite a few times, I just want to declare an interest as a member of the NI Drainage Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Jose. Or do you? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It's back to the main subject of that, lighting in parks. And it's with regard to lighting in car parks, which may, I understand, lie within business and culture. But just to highlight the fact, when we took over car parks, we also took over lighting within those car parks. And I've noted lately that the lights in the William Street car park in Castlereagh are out. There seems to be a complete string of them out there. So if somebody could ensure that whoever is informed of that and the lights are turned on again in William Street car park. Thank you.
Hadn't missed their times are on, times are off. I've remarked yet. Councillor Boggs, you're on the same issue.
Just back to what had been raised in relation to DFI, Chair, and with your indulgence, just to think in a similar vein to what Alderman Middleton had raised in relation to our own council staff being out and about over the icy and cold period, just to commend, while not an excuse for not having a flooding report, to commend the staff for how busy they were. I know particularly in rural areas, and I'm sure you'll appreciate, Chair, where they can there of help to ensure that the rural roads are treated as best they can. So I think it's just important to put on record our thanks to the local section staff for all their work and gritting and treating the roads. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Bogg. Definitely concur. They were busy with that. There's other wee options. We'll give DFI a touch at another occasion. Is there anyone else wishes on this comment or on this point, sorry, that was raised by Councillor Riley to start with? Alderman Middleton, I'm just checking. Had you another point on the chairperson's business, or was it just on the one raised by Councillor Riley?
No, that's all good. All sorted. Thanks very much.
Right. Karen, yeah.
Through you, Chair, members, and apologies, I should really have raised this under Chair's business. But members, we received a correspondence from the Department of Economy dated the 8th of January. I think we got it last Friday, basically advising that the Department of Economy intends to give mineral prospecting licenses which cover land in our area to Dalradian and Gold and Flint Ridge Resources. They have put out a consultation in relation to this, which began on Monday of this week, and with submissions and representations by the 4th of April. So again, it was too late to bring a report in relation to this today. As officers, obviously we're mindful of previous engagement with members in relation to mineral prospecting licenses within the city and district. We will bring a report next month in terms of this, and we also intend to procure some advice, some specialist advice in terms of this particular aspect of the licensing process, in order that we can get some advice on the licensing process and to inform the consultation response from council in relation to this particular issue. So members, just for your information today, we will prepare that committee report for next month. And again, just to bring to your attention that consultation became live on Monday the 13th, and we will prepare a committee paper for members as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me back in, and thank you, Karen, for that information. Just for transparency, there is a possible perceived conflict of interest with myself, and that my husband is the Deputy Chair of the Economy Committee. I can assure you all there is no conflict of interest, but I thought it would be best just to say, just in case. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rutland. Members content, that'll come back in report, and we still have time for the consultation. Was it it's in April when it's we're to reply. And right, members, that's so we're moving on to item number 8, which is open for decision, and it's proposal for NAPI and absorbent waste collection and recycling scheme, and that will be Conor.
Thanks, Chair. This is to advise members with regard to correspondence received from Michelle McAveen, MLA, Strangford, detailing a call for NI District Councils to write to the Dear Minister Muir, requesting them to consider the introduction of a specific NAPI and absorbent waste collection and recycling scheme for Northern Ireland. Under the Climate Act, there's a requirement to reach a recycling rate of 70% by 2030. And at present, we have a recycling rate of 50.5% across Northern Ireland. Members will also be aware that Council recently participated in DAERA's Rethinking Our Resources consultation, through which DAERA considered the proposals contained within the proposals to achieve a recycling rate of about 74%. Those proposals include reducing bin capacity either by smaller black bins or fewer bin collections. However, there's no suggestion as to how NAPI and other absorbent hygiene products will be collected within the consultation document. It is estimated that disposable nappies and other absorbent hygiene wastes amounts for 3 to 4% of waste going to landfill or incineration, equivalent to about 40,000 tonnes per year within Northern Ireland. The waste stream contains cellulose fibres and plastics, which are recyclable. And Wales has been collecting nappies since 2009, and the only country within the UK to do so. Wales has conducted a trial where they added nappy fibres to bitumen and asphalt roads, and these roads were shown to last twice as long as other roads, and they have marketed this trial as a prime example of local circular economy in action. With the implementation of the consultation proposal to reduce black bin capacity, there may also have a negative knock-on effect on residents in terms of where they put nappy and other absorbent hygiene products. And just in terms of the presentation we had, part of that concern is that they would end up within blue bins, adding to contamination rates. In consideration of the above, MLA McAveen has asked all district councils within Northern Ireland to write to Minister Muir expressing an interest in developing a scheme to deal with this particular waste, and that's set out in Appendix 1. By targeting nappy and absorbent waste materials through a waste collection and recycling scheme, this will reduce not only waste going to landfill, but also contamination of the blue bin waste stream, hence reducing waste disposal costs and a potential rise in recycling rates. If the proposal to reduce black bin capacity and or black bin collection frequency occurs, this may have an implication on families that produce a lot of nappy and absorbent waste. Therefore, a waste collection and recycling scheme for this waste would be advantageous. And the recommendation in front of members is that Derry City Strabane District Council submit a letter to the DAERA Minister Andrew Muir to consider the implementation of a nappy and absorbent waste materials collection and recycling scheme.
Thank you, Conor. Alderman Middleton first, and then Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you also, Conor, for the report. I very much welcome this correspondence received from Michelle McAveen, MLA, and I am content to propose that the letter be sent. As a mother and someone who is very, very keen on recycling, I welcome the discussion on a need to combat waste in every possible way. Those who need to use nappy or absorbent products need to be provided with proper facilities to dispose of such waste, and I think we have some very encouraging and interesting conversations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey.
I don't know if it should come to somebody of the Terry nappy generation, but whatever, moving forward. I'm concerned that we're jumping into this, and there is information that is available there, because Wales has been doing this since 2009. Before we actually consider writing to the Minister, I wonder, should we be seeking information on the methodology and the cost and resource implications from those who are actually doing it in another part of the United Kingdom, namely Wales? So if we get that information back, I would be mindful that we could be writing to the Minister, who will then say, oh yes, we're going to do this. But then who's going to do it? You know, he will then say to councils, right, you get on with it and do it. So I wonder, before we would write, should we seek further information from those who are doing it and know more about it? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, obviously that's a matter for the committee, and we could potentially do that. The other option is maybe we could include that within the letter, that we would seek that the department do that on behalf of all of the council areas if they are going to actually take this step, that we would expect, you know, them to feed back to us in terms of you know, the example of best practice elsewhere and the costs, etc. In order, and that we would seek as the 11 councils to engage with them on that. So I don't mind either way, members, what the committee decides to do. We could write ourselves, but it may well be more weight if it was you know, circulated amongst all the councils, and that the department were doing that as well. So as I said, I'm happy to do it either way.
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair, for that, Karen. I appreciate what you're suggesting is perhaps the two-pronged approach, and I'd be content with that. Let the department get the information for us, but I think we just need to be careful. You know, is this the department who's going to take this forward, or as I suspect they're going to say to councils, this is your responsibility, you get on with it. And if they do, you know, what are the resource implications? We've just talked about commingled waste, and you know, now we're talking about the separation of one element of the black bin waste as is. So I would be happier if the minister or the committee, the environment committee, DERA committee, would be seeking the information prior to making any decisions on it.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Thank you, Karen. Councillor Boggs.
Yeah, just in the same vein as Alderman Hussey, there's obviously concerns in relation to it and what way you go about it. I suppose on behalf of Sinn Féin, we're happy to go with the proposals in front of us because it's only asking the minister to consider it. It's not directing them to do anything or calling them to do anything at this stage. And it is, you know, his call to make, whatever that call may be in the future. So for now, we're just happy to accept the recommendation in front of us on that basis. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to Karen for her response there. Like Alderman Hussey, this is a wee bit, you know, be careful what you wish for type of thing, because we could end up picking up the burden on this in terms of resourcing it. But we are happy at this stage to get further information and to encourage the minister to do whatever he can within his department to support councils to be able to implement this in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Members, then, as it stands, then we do have it proposed by Alderman Middleton and second by Councillor Boggs to accept the report as stands. Are we doing that, or are we going to include the Karen? Yeah,
well, through you, Chair, members of the committee are happy to accept the officer recommendation. We can include members' comments within that, and indeed seek further engagement with the department and indeed through the technical advisory group of councils in terms of this matter to make sure we engage it. And what we will do is we'll include the correspondence that goes in any correspondence back to members at the future committees as well.
Members content with that course action? Yeah. Right, members, we're going on to open for information, items 9 to 14, and we'll just go through them here. Number 9 is the building control applications. Number 10 is Craig and Reservoirs financial update report. Number 11 is the Irish Street Mugga, and that is sorry, Caitlin. I have Alderman Middleton and then Councillor Deeney. Julie.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. Just very briefly, just to thank for the report and the update. We're thankful for the budgetary work that the council officers has done that has allowed work to potentially be carried out. We will look forward to seeing the repair work, and we welcome that also. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deeney. Caitlin.
Just to welcome this being brought forward. There's obviously been significant deterioration recently. And there's a major shortage of facilities on the water side, and it's been awful watching this not being used for what it was intended for. But just say to welcome it coming back into committee, but I wouldn't want to see what happened in the summer months ever happening again. So, but thank you very much for the work on it.
Thank you, Councillor Deeney. Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to the officers for the report. I think this, about like Councillor Deeney, this is a welcome development given what this area was used for over the summer months. and which was subject to lots of conversations at the bonfire working group within council. So seeing this area being brought back into use so the children can play and enjoy the facilities within their own area is something that absolutely should be welcomed. I think as a council, we need to keep an eye on this area in the coming months to make sure that it's not overtaken again by the storage of toxic materials that would end up on a bonfire. But Chair, I do have slight concerns around the possible reduction in the playing surface that we may be offering in this particular area and in other areas across the district, given the fact that we can't replace the surface like for like at the moment. And I think we should be looking for a budget line somewhere within the Rich booklet to see how, where we can replace these facilities to the standard that they originally were. But happy with the report and delighted to see that this area will be brought back into use for children to play in as what it should be used for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. The comments will be noted there in regards to item 11. Item 12 then is the old play area removals at Faughan View and Faughan Crescent. And do you have Alderman Middleton on it?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in again, and thank you to the council officers for the report. The DEP welcomed the communication efforts made thus far with local residents and sending letters and communication out, and also for the meeting where council officers attended and engaged with many residents. That's really good to see. We fully respect and acknowledge the ROSPA and health and safety reports. We fully acknowledge that everything you're doing is to keep children and the community safe. However, for the community, seeing the equipment completely moved is emotive. Obviously, not everybody was at the meeting, and there is strong feelings. And this happens across the district. It's not just here, but there is strong feelings when everything is removed. We would ask, and actually, if possible, I would propose that if council officers were willing, if perhaps they could have another meeting with local residents just before everything is removed, just to say, look, here's the report. We are removing everything. It's happening on this date, because whilst there is a lot of people that are knowledgeable and will be aware, for those that don't know, and because it's emotive, I think it could be a shock to some, especially those who don't have social media and who maybe weren't at the meeting. But I would propose, if possible, that there's another meeting and a wee bit more correspondence, just to follow up from the previous correspondence that has taken place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Officer content to do that. You don't need that proposal. You're content enough. Yeah, that's grand. That'll be dealt with. Members, item 13 is the RAP technical and communication support. Does anyone wish to? Councillor Tierney, are you still on this, or have I missed you? Right. All right, that's grand. Item 14 then, members, is the Maboy project update. I do have Councillor or Alderman Middleton here. Would you like?
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in again. And it's just a brief word of thanks to Karen and team for including the report and keeping us up to date on the Maboy situation. It goes without saying, we're all aghast at what's been going on. We're not going to be divulging into legal conversations. We don't want to ruin any proceedings, but thank you very much for the update.
Thank you very much, Alderman Middleton. No other members wish to raise anything else on those open for information? No. And that being then, members, I'll ask for proposer and seconder to go confidential. Proposed Councillor McHugh, seconded Councillor Deeney. Ready?